Easter is for like the Negro number one. Easter is the resurrection day of Jesus. All right. Now, when you're dealing with the second Negro, Easter is a paganistic holiday. All right. It's pagan. It's evil. It's satanic. It's of the devil, and we don't support it. That's right. All right. You're gonna deal with these Hebrew Israelites out here, who, you know, they will go so far to saying that Easter is a paganistic holiday and we don't celebrate it. It's the white man's tradition, the white man's holiday. Now, here's the thing, though, right? When you're dealing with the commercialized and the romanticized and the westernized version of Easter, of course, that's when you're dealing with the white man traditions, all right, per se. But when you are dealing with the actual representation or the actual meaning of Easter, is none of those things. Now, when we're dealing with the word paganism, paganism is not a bad word. Paganism, or to be pagan, means that you are practicing traditions that are outside the main world religions. That is Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So if you have traditions outside of Christianity, Judaism, or Islam, they are considered pagan. Now, back in the day, Romans would say, or they would use the word pagan to describe traditions outside of the Christian religion. And paganism, to them, in the way that they used it, was derogatory towards people that practice traditions outside of Christianity. So if you practice anything of ancient traditions, or you practice your own particular traditions, they were quote unquote pagans. All right, paganistic, which means they were traditions for the peasants. Basically, I mean, that's just what it means. So when people say that, if they say that you practicing something paganistic or you're celebrating something that's pagan, do not be afraid of the word pagan. All right. And I had to recondition my mind from the word pagan as well. Some people are scared of the word pagan. When something is pagan or they have pagan traditions, we automatically think of something satanic, something demonic or evil, bloodthirsty, eating bodies, cannibalism, orgies. Like, we think of just the most deviant thing possible. You know what I'm saying? And that's just not what it is. Something that is pagan is just basically something that is not a part of the main world religions. Now, what's ironic is that all the main world religions are created from paganistic traditions. Everything from Christianity to Judaism to Islam, everything has roots in paganism. All right, if we want to play that game. But you might ask, what is Easter? Well, Easter has more so to do with the rebirth of nature. All right, the coming of spring. Now, Easter is not the day of spring. That is what we consider to be the spring equinox, and that was on March the 20th. Today is April the 4th. All right, so they're kind of separated. You know what I'm saying? And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Easter comes after the new moon. I'm looking it up right now. But Easter usually comes, I'm gonna read it right now. Easter is observed on Sunday following the full moon, which is the first full moon that occurs on or after March equinox, or the spring equinox. So for an example, if the equinox were to occur on March 21st, and the full moon was to occur 2 days later on March 23rd, Easter would be observed on the first Sunday after March 23rd. So that's how that operates. All right. So it wasn't the new moon. It was the first full moon after the spring equinox. All right. So around these times, you have the Jews or the Hebrew Israelites as well. They practice or they celebrate the traditions or the customs of the Passover. So they go hand in hand, and it's kind of esoteric as well when you're dealing with the Passover, because Jesus in his story also was celebrating the Passover around the time of his death. All right, and when you study the Passover and how it correlates to the days of Moses and when they was in Egypt, and putting the blood on the blood of the lamb on their the doorposts and so on and so forth, and then you have Jesus who died and being the quote unquote sacrificial lamb of God, and that kind of just go hand in hand. But we can deal with the blood of the lamb, all that stuff for another time, for another day. Particularly, I just want to deal with the tradition of Easter, just dealing with Easter in itself. So, Easter, when you're dealing with Easter, you're dealing with, first and foremost, Ishtar. All right, now, the word Ishtar is Mesopotamian, just dealing with it, essentially it's Mesopotamian, or Assyrian. And when you deal with the word Ishtar in English, it's Easter. All right. And also, when you're dealing with Easter, you can also date it back to a Germanic goddess, a Germanic spring goddess. Her name is Ostara. All right, Ostara. And so when you're dealing with the Germanic or the Anglo-Saxon goddess, you're going to be dealing with Ostara. And mind you, right, because I was telling somebody this earlier today, that when you're dealing with spring, when you're dealing with the seasonal changes, every civilization had customs or traditions where they celebrated the times of change. All right, so when you're dealing with particular quote-unquote paganistic traditions, all right, you can't say that all of them are bad because they're not in the Bible. That's just disingenuous. So when you're dealing with the day of Easter, you're dealing with the change of the season where spring is coming and things are being reborn and rebirth. And Ishtar is the goddess of fertility, of sex, of nature, of life itself. So she could be a representation of Mother Nature. All right, now Ishtar share many connections with the goddess of Set or Isis. And when you're dealing with the goddess Isis, you are also dealing with Mother Mary. Mother Mary, as we all know, gave birth to who we call Jesus Christ. Set or Isis gave birth to who we know as Horus or Haru. So when you're dealing with Ishtar or Easter, you are also dealing with Mother Mary. Okay, so when we are dealing with Happy Easter, no more than saying Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Mary has a lot to play with, or a lot to do with giving birth or rebirthing the sun. Right? Christmas Day, the winter solstice, is when you're dealing with the rebirth of the sun. And then Easter is when you're dealing with New Year's, new times, new beginnings, and when you're dealing with the rebirth of nature itself. All right, so when you are dealing with Isis or Ishtar or Mother Mary, you also dealing with Mary Magdalene as well, because Mary Magdalene, when you study the Gnostics, she was married to Jesus. And speaking of married, this just came to mind. I know there's a particular legend where Ishtar is married to her son Tammuz. All right, there's different type of stories and legends of how that came about, but typically, there is a story where Tammuz is the reincarnation of Nimrod, and that's basically how that goes. Now, you're gonna have people that are gonna be like, "Oh my God, you're celebrating Ishtar, but Ishtar married her son Tammuz." Now listen, when you're dealing with the story, mind you, do not take these legends and these stories literal. All right, you're gonna see some bizarre things and legends and stories, but please do not take them literal, because they have different meanings back then to how we see them now. All right, but there are many versions of what has happened between Ishtar and Nimrod. But the most popular one that we know of is that